A new twist in the Uber phenomenon. That's a ride-sharing phone app that has the taxi industry up in arms. And here's a little bit of a video they released over a year ago when they were looking for drivers in Boston.
I want to earn a little extra income now that I'm retired. I want the freedom to follow my passion and still earn a good living.
With Uber, it's all possible.
Earn a little extra income? Sure, I get that. But I'm not sure that's what was behind my next two guests' trip to the driver's seat. I'm joined now by one former Uber driver and one current, respectively. John Pepper founded the burrito chain Boloco, and Paul English, co-founder of Kayak, the cheap travel site. He's now CEO and co-founder of Lola Travel Company. Gentlemen, it's good to meet you both. Let me start with you for a second. How'd you get involved in this, and why'd you get involved in this?
You know, I've always been fascinated by travel. I've been an aviation nut forever. Thought I wanted to be a truck driver when I got out of college. And the day after I resigned from my position as CEO of Boloco.
Before you came back to Boloco, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But that's back then.
Okay.
This is in October of 13. I had to get to the Chicago O'Hare Airport, and I was feeling sort of very free. And I was speaking to my Uber driver, and I was asking him how he was doing, and he was just awesome. His name was Shabi. And I said to him, you know what I should do? I should sign up for Uber today. And he's like, if you do, I'll get $250.
Because he referred a driver.
Because he referred me, and I said, well, for my first deed of post-Boloco days, I will get Shabi his $250.
So you did it for the $250?
Well, that was the initial reason. But that was an excuse to kind of start.
How'd you get involved?
So John actually was the first person that I knew who was an Uber driver, and I read his blog, and I was kind of fascinated by it. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. I'm an obsessive Uber passenger, so I use Uber all the time, hundreds and hundreds of times. And then back in July, I started a new travel company called Lola.
Lola, yeah.
And as part of Lola, where we basically connect you to travel agents 24/7, and at the end of your transaction, you rate the travel agent on a scale of 1 to 5 based on how well they did in helping you plan your trip. And I wanted to know what it felt like to get rated at the end of an interaction.
That's exactly, what is that? I mean, you guys are pretty powerful characters in your lives, and all of a sudden you're sitting in the front seat, somebody you never knew, maybe they had an extra drink, whatever they are, and they determine your fate.
Absolutely.
How,
They did.
How terrifying is that?
I loved it.
Why?
Loved it. It really puts service at a premium that you have to perform or you get kicked out. If you get rated a 3-star or under on average, you're gone. You're gone. And so, you know, I'll tell you a funny story I just learned. A friend of mine works at the Boston Police, and she told me in the Hackney division they have 20 Boston Police employees who do nothing but investigate crimes in taxis. You don't need 20 employees to investigate Uber, because if the drivers are bad drivers, they get fired.
Same lure for you? Is that appealing to you, or
yeah,
scary?
No, I really liked it. I mean,
the rating part of it?
I did, yeah. It was very raw, and I always thought to myself, one of the problems in the restaurant industry, right, is that nobody knows where they stand.
Well, you get a tip or you don't get a tip, or you get a crappy tip or a good tip. That tells you something,
for the servers, but there's a lot of other people working in the restaurants,
true. Right?
And most of these jobs are considered minimum wage jobs. So what I thought was most interesting was, why aren't we translating this sort of very quick, frequent feedback into more industries like that? And I actually loved knowing exactly where I stood.
But how were your ratings? Good?
4.9. I think he's got me.
Not that he
when I ended, I was 4.92.
How about you?
We were showing each other ratings earlier. I'm 4.95.
Yeah, but you drive a Tesla.
I do. So
you do a Tesla and a Jeep. I bet you your ratings were higher in the Tesla than they were in the Jeep.
They were higher in the Tesla.
Well, don't you think that's part of the explanation?
I also, to be totally honest, would give my drivers, my customers, a free burrito card.
That's not true. Is that true?
Fair.
Is that true? Wow.
Sometimes it's true. I mean, what am I going to do? I wanted a good rating.
So is the notion with you guys that these lessons are transferable to a wide swath of the corporate sector, this notion about immediate ratings by customers of...
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times the people performing the service are many layers away from the people who are evaluating them. And it's like their boss's boss's boss trying to decide your future, how much you get paid. And I much prefer a world where all the middlemen aren't there, and it's if I provide good service to you, I get paid well.
Is that the same deal with you? I mean, that this is applicable? I mean, I assume that's part of the motivation, to learn about not only use it at Boloco, but other CEOs should be taking a spin, right?
Totally. I mean, I felt what translated for me most importantly, for me specifically, was realizing that this frequent feedback system could be used, in a place of employment to give hourly workers a stronger voice in the
So how's that
workplace.
happening at Boloco? How do
So
you
we
implement
actually started a company in my hiatus that Paul knows about, and he's actually even advised me on it, where its quiet name is eApp, meaning that's not going to be the final name.
What's the gist of it?
The gist of it is allowing workers to have a digital voice in the workplace where they can actually have say in who's working next to them, on attributes of those people next
You're
to them.
famous for treating your people really well too, don't you? Get like high
And
grades
giving a
for
say. We do get high grades, but also saying, how's our manager doing? And really opening up the dialogue on a day-to-day basis.
So how you going to, in this Lola thing you're starting, how's this going to manifest itself?
Well, I need to think about what happens. One of the things that's more complicated in Lola than an Uber driver. In an Uber driver, you get out of the car and there's one person who gave you a ride.
Right.
On Lola, you might have a travel trip you're planning, which is complicated, and it might take place, your planning might take place over a couple days, a few days, as you think about different options, talk to the people you're traveling with. In that case, you're going to be served by multiple people. And so I got to figure out
How
how does
you
a
rate
rating
as you
system
go.
work when there's two different people who helped you.
What happened when the person or people you were driving found out or I assume they recognized you in some cases. If not, did you ever tell them? What was it like? They said, oh, by the way, I was the founder of Kayak, which sold for $2 billion.
Yeah, so
Priceline.
I've never told anyone that, but a lot of people will ask me about the car, and I'm really meticulous about my cars. The car's always really clean, and people will ask me about it. And there's some very funny conversations with the car. If people ask me what I do for a living, I just say I'm a programmer because I want to divert the discussion back to them. I think I had one couple on Halloween night. My girlfriend and I actually hosted a party for 200 people, and we're at full costume. The party got out at midnight. I have to say, for the record, I did not drink at this party.
Okay, fine.
Jump in my Tesla, and also probably completely against Uber rules. My girlfriend was sitting next to me, full costume, handing out candy. And we gave people rides from midnight to about 2 a.m. And one young couple got in the back seat of the
Recognize
car.
her?
Well, they were asking me questions about the car, and then the guy was on his iPhone search for something. He's showing his girlfriend, and she turns to me. She said, "Are you Paul English?"
And they obviously know who you are because you're handing them a Boloco card, right?
Well, I wasn't, so that was once in a while, but more importantly on my Jeep, I had the only vanity plates I would ever have, but it said Boloco on my Jeep.
Yeah.
So
Get
people
away.
would at first say, do you just love Boloco? And I was like, I kind of do.
Well, that's true. Yeah. So very quickly, so the threshold at Uber and what you're trying to incorporate in your ventures is the customer is always right. But is the customer always right?
No, the
that
customer's
is the
not always
notion.
right, but you can always treat the customer right. So the notion, first of all, you can always treat, I mean, what we empower our people to do is just assume the customer is right and do what it takes to make it right, to make people happy.
Same
is
deal
how
with
we
you?
look at it.
Yeah, I think so. I would say this is a good XM.
You're the guy behind Get Human, by the way. I
am.
just realized
I
in my
am.
head. That's
That's
where
right.
you learn how to find an actual human
Yeah,
being.
yeah.
You get a 5 from me for
All
that
right,
alone.
cool,
Thank
cool.
you. John, it's great to see you. I hope you get to ride in your car at some point. You too.
All
The
right.
Tesla is really.
Thanks a lot.
I prefer that to the Jeep if you can work that out. Okay.